Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today we're going to review the Pagani Design PD1662 Left-Handed GMT. Let's start out with the wrist check. We're doing all Pagani today, and I'm wearing my Pagani Design PD1733 homage to Rolex Milgauss. And Grogo is wearing my Pagani Design PD1644 homage to Rolex Daytona. I asked Grogu if he is watching the Rings of Power on Amazon Prime. He said no. The only rings he cares about are the ones you can dip in ranch dressing. A little post-editing disclaimer here. I noticed when I was editing the video that I say DJ5833 often, and it's really a DG5833. But rather than throw away the whole video and redo it, I'll just give you this little disclaimer here. Whenever you hear DJ5833, it's a DG5833. Alright, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, here's the watch. Comes in your typical Pagani Design little snapper box. For an extra $10, you can get the nicer clamshell box, the really big one, but I don't want that. And here it is, the left-handed GMT. I don't remember what the nickname is for that, so I'm just going to call it the Ned Flanders. But here it is. It's a nice looking watch. This year, everyone was expecting Rolex to come out with the green GMT, and sure enough, that is what happened. But nobody was expecting it to be a left-handed watch. As far as I know, Pagani Design was the first of the AliExpress homage companies to come out with their version of the left-handed GMT. It is quite obvious that Pagani Design took their normal right-handed PD1662 and flipped the dial upside down and then gave the movement a reverse date wheel. Then they reversed the bracelet, then change, oh presto, you have a left-handed watch. I am right-handed and there is no rule saying you have to wear a left-handed watch on your right hand. You can wear it on your left hand as usual. The only real difference is the crown is on the wrong side, so you can't easily operate the crown while wearing it. Personally, I usually take off my watch when setting it, so I guess it doesn't really matter for me. Then there's the date at the 9 instead of the 3. More of an oddity than a convenience for left-handers. I can't picture left-handed people wishing the date of their watches were on the other side. I've been wearing this watch in my right hand for the sake of this review just because I thought it would be more fun. But if I was to keep it, I would immediately be switching it to the left. As I said earlier, this is basically a PD1662 that has been turned upside down, so if you've seen one of my earlier reviews of a PD1662, you might want to skip to the end. The watch is 40.1 millimeters at the bezel, 47.8 millimeters lug to lug, 53.3 if you count the protruding end links. It's 12.8 millimeters thick if you don't count the Cyclops, and I never do. Has a 20 millimeter lug width. It weighs 149 grams with one link removed. I only removed one link because I pushed it down the micro adjust pretty well. So I think normally I would have removed two. The bezel is 120 click unidirectional with a ceramic insert. GMT watches should have 48 click bidirectional bezels, but most affordable GMTs share parts with their dive watch counterparts. So you're going to get unidirectional 69 or 120 clicks or no clicks at all. The bottom of the bezel is a very nice shade of green, which will be the biggest attraction for anyone who is not left-handed. The action is very nice with solid clicks and no backplay, but unfortunately it's a bit too light and you will be knocking it out of position quite often. Especially when you're setting the watch, you'll just bump the bezel and then it will move. But other than that, the action is really good. The dial is glossy black, but no sunburst effect. It has Pagani Design name and logo printed on top. Then it says GMT in green, but the green is such a dull green that you can hardly see it on the black background. Then it says automatic, water resistant, and then gives 10 bars, 100 meters. Once again, I always say, why say water resistant? If you give the depth rating, it just clutters up the dial. So instead of 4 lines of text, we could just have 3. It has applied Lume indices, and they're your basic GMT Master Submariner type style, as well as the hands. And it has a Lume GMT hand with a green stick. Then it has the unsigned date at the 9 instead of the 3. And there's a Cyclops, but man, there's quite a bit of reflection on that Cyclops. It makes it kind of difficult to see through it if there's any light around. We have a signed screw-down crown. It pops nicely when unscrewed. Yeah, pretty good pop there. But I have a heck of a time trying to screw it back down with my left hand. But I can do it. It just takes quite a bit of effort. So usually what I do, if I have to screw it back down, I turn it over and use my right hand. But it can be done. You got to remember too, it's even though it's a left-handed watch, it's still righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So you're going in the down position instead of the up position, so it's a little bit harder to get a grip. Then one thing too with these DJ5833 movements, sometimes setting them can be kind of a pain when you go to pull it out, and when you go to push it in, sometimes you can get some hand movement. It didn't do it this time. So you just have to be careful. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it does. So let me try it again. See, that time the second hand really jumped. So you just have to be careful. Usually the best thing you can do is when you go to push it in, just push it into the date position instead of all the way in, and then follow through, and then it won't jump so bad. The DJ5833 also, the GMT hand is not a jumping GMT hand, meaning when you set it, you set it smoothly. It doesn't jump hour by hour by hour. And that means when you go to set it, if you just go too far because you're trying to get it just right, then you have to go all the way around again. It's just a feature of this type of cheap GMT movement. There's Ronda quartz movements that do the same thing. The crystal is a flat sapphire, and it just barely sticks out above the bezel, just barely. And there's no AR coating, so you get quite a bit of reflection. And then of course you have the Cyclops, and once again the Cyclops has lots of reflection. But it is indeed sapphire. I tested it. And the case is solid steel with polished sides and brushed tops and bottoms. It's a nice case. And it's got pretty good crown guards there for the crown. The screw-down case back is the display case back. And then it says stainless steel Pagani design. Then it gives the water resistant 100 meters. Doesn't give the model number, which is rare. Usually it does on Pagani design. And then it shows off the DJ5833 movement. One thing too is Pagani design on the DJ5833s on their GMTs, they always give you a nice looking rotor. But on the other watches, when they use an NH35, they go with the stock rotor. So I don't know why they don't pretty up the NH35s like they do these DJ5833s. Maybe they figure since the DJ5833 isn't as good as a movement, they just pretty it up so some and people won't mind as much. The DJ5833 is the go-to movement for GMT watches, for automatic GMT watches in this price range. It's a 3 Hz movement that hand winds and hacks and has a unidirectional rotor. And the accuracy is usually all over the place. You never really know what you're going to get. So let's go ahead and check out this one. Here it is on the Timegrapher. As you can see, it's running about -4 to -6 seconds slow. And as you can see too, that there's a little bit of beat error. And but the amplitude's really strong. So that's a pretty smooth line there. So this DJ5833 is running pretty good for a DJ5833 5833. I've definitely seen a lot worse out there, so this is a pretty good one. So once again, with the DJ 5833, you never know what you're going to get, and this time I got a good one. The oyster style bracelet has solid end links, and then the oyster style links have polished center links, and this has screw pin adjusters. I personally prefer push pin. I think it's just easier, but at least Pagani designed the screw pins to have nice big heads. But one thing they don't do is they don't have holes on the other end, so if you ever stripped one, you'd have a heck of a time getting it out. You'd probably have to replace the bracelet. You'll never get it out unless you send it to a pro, and that would cost too much money. Then we have the oyster style clasp. I'm not a huge fan of oyster style clasp, but when it comes to a Rolex homage, I forgive it. My main complaint about the oyster style clasp is the micro adjust. You have to, they're inside and there's no holes on the outside to push. So you have to basically pull out the easy link, and then you have to get a tool in there. And Pagani design only has slots on one side instead of both sides. So it can get kind of awkward getting a tool in there to get it out. Now, if it had a glide lock-like system, I'd love it, but it doesn't. Now, this one, too, I pushed it into the closest micro adjust instead of taking another link out. I probably could have took another link out and kept it on the end. And the clasp is signed. Here's the watch on my 7.5-inch wrist. This is my right hand because this is a left-handed watch. Once again, you don't have to wear a left-handed watch on your right hand. I just thought it'd be more fun. It's amazing how heavy it feels on your right hand. I was wearing my that Philida Big James Cameron the other day on my left hand, and it felt lighter than this one on my right hand, even though it's a much heavier watch. But it looks nice, wears nice and flat. It's a good watch. And once again, if I was to keep it, I'd put it on my left hand. Here we are in the Lume room. When it comes to Lume and Pagani design, you're going to get anywhere between pretty bad and somewhat decent. Sometimes you even get pretty good, but never awesome. So let's see what we have today. As we speed up the time, it looks like we have one where the Lume is pretty darn good for Pagani design. And most importantly, the hand Lume is better than the index Lume. Unfortunately, the minute hand seems to be a bit weaker than the other hands. Still not bad for Pagani design. This is not going to win any awards or Lume contests, but it's still pretty darn good. What do I like about this watch? Well, it's a very nice looking watch. And I really like the green color. And I like the effort. Pagani design could have just gave it a green bezel and called it good, but they did the left-handed thing too, including the 9 o'clock date window. And I really like the ceramic bezel. It's just very nice looking. One of my gripes and groans, the bezel action is just a bit too light, and you will be knocking it out of place from time to time. The movement can be difficult to set, and that's about it. There's really not much to complain about. I mean, it's a good watch. Do I recommend this watch? Sure. If you want a left-handed GMT, this one will do just nicely. And if you're right-handed and just like the color green, this one will wear just fine on your left hand. You'll just have to take it off to set it, and I usually do anyway. Well, thank you for watching my review of the Pagani Design PD1662 left-handed Ned Flanders. And I will be back with another unboxing. I just got something in the mail yesterday. Be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.